last loss was very, very, very bad from T1 considering the end situation. I believe the coach made a statement saying they know exactly what happened, but it was pretty apparent that they just got like a mid turret instead of going Drake getting Soul, which would have been really, really good with the poke comp. The Ezreal Zoe combo that's like pretty potent in draft right now, especially when teams first pick the Ahri. Um, that they can benefit from like the Infernal and Hextech Soul especially, and but this is also like a combo that Gumiusi maybe could find other champions. Like maybe if they look towards more of a Senna type draft, I'd imagine that champion is going to be contested in this draft. But overall, this is my favorite team, Evil Geniuses. Jojo Pyun and Danny are two of my favorite players to watch right now. The kind of the story of importing Inspired, having Impact to guide them all through this investment of young talent has been really, really special to watch, especially as they qualify for international tournaments. So, and T1 clearly are talented in their own right, despite their showing in this stage of the tournament. Um, yeah, this is a fun match for me. I don't have any money on it, but we could see some crazy things. I would watch out for the Wukong priority, consider you can put it bot lane with the Senna. Lucian should be banned from T1. Kalista has shot up in priority lately, despite the existence of Vex and Poppy. Uh, Lucian is banned. LeBlanc will be banned away, which means Ahri is less threatened in lane. Different counter picks do exist for it, like the Vigor, the Vigar. Wukong's banned away. Jax is banned away, so this is looking like a big Gwen pick for Impact. Which the answers would then be something like the Tryndamere, the Kennen, Alistar possibly from Keria, and the Ahri is banned away. So Viego is also on the table as well. Viego, Vex isn't too good into Gwen, but Viego Gwen or Viego Vex is pretty good duo. Especially if you're going like Tryndamere in the top lane. Graves is also one of the best earlier junglers at the moment. You can look at Yankos' game on it yesterday against the Buffalo. Also, Ezreal, Kaisa, Senna still on the table for 80 carry. Okay, Senna's going to be locked in. And what do we do against Senna? Just dive onto it? Or outscale it with Senna? Or outscale it with Jinx that's been nerfed? I honestly don't know the answer. Vulcan does look for like early game supports though. Playing Twisted Fate against Faker into Graves is kind of insane, and Senna has a global ult to contest it, so Jojo Pyun is going to have to smurf this game. But it is a more of a supportive role, so you can channel more of your power into the Gwen, and Ezreal will help sustain through the lane. So with Ezreal, we're looking at different ults, or different supports, like Leota and such. I'd be interested to see who's next to Senna as well. Or if we just see a mid laner pick here. The Sylas. So Twisted Fate has a lot of counters. Tristana is pretty good in the mid lane. And then Sylas also just takes the ult, which is very, very useful. But not so useful into the Gwen, so it's kind of interesting. Alistar is definitely not on the table for evil geniuses. Considering I also steal that ult. Lee Sin bend away, which is interesting. Inspired's has had some pretty good showings on it, but Lee Sin is very poorly positioned in this meta. Um, Especially into that Wukong, both Wukong at the table. You know, I guess maybe it's a possibility. Tom Kench bent away from the center, and who else? Carrio's champion pool is pretty vast, so they could also flex the Silas into the bot lane, like we saw Saigon Buffalo do with Vladimir yesterday, and Vladimir could also be a pick into this Gwen outside of the Tryndamere, but that would be a lot of AP. So, but maybe that's good for lethality Senna. It's hard to say. Vladimir's banned. So what will it be? I'd imagine you pick a top laner here, and then yeah, you pick top. Gameplay's a pretty good matchup into it. I would expect that or the Tryndamere, but then you would get a lot of value out of tabbies or steel plate caps. Uh, this Yumi pick would be kind of insane to look to outscale the center, but the Bard's gonna come through instead. Then he also does just like troll with his picks, but it looks like it is going to be those two together. So gold card and out of Twisted Fatal and Bard is a pretty potent combo, but it'll be interesting for sure. And then Viego is on the table still. So this is where we'll see what is mid, what is with the Senna. A lot of open doors for T1 here. We'll see how creative they get. Just the Nautilus. They're gonna do the G2 special. Hey, you know, I'm more of a fan of the Nautilus when it is with the Senna, more than anything else. Because if you get farm on the Nautilus, he doesn't just instantly explode when he hits a hook, which is the problem I have with Volibear right now as well. But Kelsey Moser talks about that a lot, specifically Nautilus and Volibear. But a lot of global threats from T1 to answer Jojo Pion's rotations, and I've been a little bit critical of his Twisted Fate so far in the tournament. He doesn't always find a good gold card angle on the level 6, like collapsing towards the side lane. Inspired on Viego and Impact on Gwen is a good spot to have your team in almost any situation. So this will certainly be interesting. I'm gonna turn the casters up though, because it's my favorite caster duo. I think Owner and Graves could absolutely tear up everything, especially the Twisted Fate that Jojo Pune opted into that quote unquote matchup. One, yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen, but one very very interesting thing about the Bard is because interesting. Um, so because T1 have such a large priority on Rift Herald, I think especially Red Team being able to just hop this wall for free and then take Herald is like really really important in the early game, especially for getting early gold injections from plates on your carries. So Bard, seeing some buffs here, um, notably with his interaction being able to hit the gold, like hit the ult on top of the turret as the Rift Herald charges in, and then get the 50 gold for your for your carry is a pretty good interaction, if not game breaking. So um, it's kind of interesting that they would choose to pick Bard as real here. I wonder if this was a pre-planned draft. Uh, Considering also Vulcan often plays like Leona, sometimes the Braum, which are also carries, or different supports with Ezreal AD carry. See, the answer chronicler is that they don't need to set up really at all. They can give it, and then Vulcan can roam. But well, I'd imagine they realize that.
Oh, with how T1 have been playing thus far, I'm pretty sure that they are then going to contest 4 versus 5, and then lose.
Well, I mean, it's
They've
very,
been
very
doing that a
difficult.
lot.
The amount that EG can follow up after a pick is just absurd.
Yeah.
With things like Viego being able to get those resets, but not to mention the mobility that you get with something like the Bard. Even Impact's chase potential is very high. As Faker thinking about throwing a fake Destiny towards that top side, will not commit to it. Is threatening a decent bit of vision there.
Fake Destiny.
Available from EG. Do like how they're protecting Impact. He's certainly very important for this team, and so far performing very, very well against the T1 young top laner.
And in the context of the game, it makes sense, but seeing Senna roam while a Nautilus stays in lane feels peculiar. Herald spawning coming up soon. Do expect EG, as they get shoved in here, to try and contest that, but they might also go for the counterplay. Put a lot of pressure on Carrier towards the top side and try to get some plates into Vulcan, as there's the fake Destiny being used, but
I mean, it's not fake, it's just stolen, as the chain is going to be dashed out of the way from.
Is it counterfeit?
I guess. It's hijacked. I'm very confident in the fact that it's hijacked.
It's a compromised.
Other than that, don't know quite as much. As Carrier's going to find a hook here on to the Twisted Fate in the mid lane. Decent chain to come out, but the flash comes through from Jojo Pure. Vulcan in the area perfectly. Will be able to save his mid laner, but that is a flash.
Flashing, yeah. Flashing out of W range is pretty good.
So neither mid laners with that option.
Okay, but Bard, look at Bard. It's playing defense.
When they were taking Herald, can just let that wave go, and then you don't have to use your flash. Overall trade still going firmly in favor of T1, as with that roam from Carrier towards mid, will be having enough pressure picking that up.
Yep. Zayas just shooting Impact over and over again. Now that that chain has been picked up, it's going to be even more frustrating for the Gwen. But of course, when that Leeching Leer comes in, it will be a little bit better. Now that sustain Gwen will have for herself. Jojo Pure. As soon as he enters Fog of War, T1 do need to be careful. There's now Impact going in. Trial by Fire, I believe, down onto the Gwen now as well, as Ona comes on over. Needlework is out there, flashes forward, and that's going to be first blood for Zayas, continuing.
And Bard is bot lane.
With the lack of vision and no defensive summoners available,
damn.
That you're taking there as Impact's going forward
pretty big.
And I was just going to say, T1, they can probably get some plates, but getting an actual first trip up looking rough as Guma.
Yeah, this is looking rough as well. Chronicler is now Faker. He's got the Destiny Eye on top of him. Gold card comes out. The piercing darkness, not enough healing whatsoever. An EG fight back.
Guma getting taken down is a prize that EG is going to be very happy to take. Unfortunately for them, overall trade still firmly in favor of T1. As with that Impact death, so much gold going into Zayas, who has been, by I'd say a large margin, the most consistent performing member of T1. And domestically, Zayas got basically no attention, and he didn't need attention, because again, T1 basically unchecked within the own region. But here at MSI, it's been such a different story, and I'm happy to see T1 actually pay way more attention towards their best performing player. Guma, unfortunately, at least doesn't use the flash. He's used a lot of those in plays where he shouldn't in the matches thus far. So at least holds on to that, but exactly showing what EG wants to do, which is pick off those strikes.
Yeah, well, now MasterCard Mythic is going to be the Trinity Force. We have a look at the replay of this first blood. And gameplay pretty powerful at this stage of the game, but committing to the flash gets the parlay, and Gwen was unfortunately not immune.
And I think also a fake sense of security there, possibly for Impact, because Jojo was roaming up. And if a Twisted Phase is roaming towards your lane, you're going to feel a lot better about it. Guma walking alone into enemy territory with no one to really back him up. Unfortunately, just gets taken down immediately. Nicely done there. And those type of mistakes right now are not too consequential. But the EG comp is going to be able to do this regardless of how far we get into the game. And it continues a trend of the type of mistakes that domestically T1 just didn't really seem to make. As they pick up the Drake here.
Tempted Fate going to be flashed there from Gumayushi, not wanting to take the risk. So now the center largely going to be a sitting duck as this game continues. EG now continuing to push towards the bottom side. Carrier in position, Spy wrapping around as well. Looking like a bit of a 3v3. There's the flash over the wall and the pick comes in. Carrier locks down the kill after the Dawn.
That is a dead jungler. god.
Finishes off the kill.
That was wild.
And EG will walk it out.
Wonderfully done there by EG. The greens from T1 to go for that Azaleas.
Yeah, Impact finding the game point here, and the needlework.
Holy
the
shit.
last one not landing. Dashing forward. Let's see whether Zeus can win the 1v1. Trial by fire is so powerful,
Negative.
and that will secure its solo kill for the Gangplank top lane.
Jojo Kondo, he's looking.
Can he dive the turret though? Oranges are there, and Gangplank has a habit of being K after eating them.
Little carried away there after 2 successful plays. Yeah, top side, unfortunate play, even with the Igniter advantage and the ult advantage. Zeus having already finished his Trinity Force, not a necessary play. But this is a really nice punish there from EG when T1 overextends. Forcing the flash here is nicely done. Again, you see the attempt from Inspire to roam around and maybe look for a good skirmisher, as they should with the composition. And then this pick off T1, that part's great. Inspired is on vision, Carrier flashes over, and they hunt to zero in.
Nice.
And then they
Yeah,
pull
that
the ball.
Graves is kind of a good champion.
A lot of rules.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Don't chase Singed and don't follow Brad through his portal.
You can't. And really nice ultimate as well from Danny, being able to actually pick off Faker there, who was hiding behind the rest of his teammates. This little less fortunate.
Yeah, you just have to hit the barrel, huh?
Yeah, like I said, maybe if you hit all the needles, you might be fine here. But in the extended trade, with the item advantage that Zeus has, this has really taken your matchup from not great to real hard for Impact.
I believe what you were looking for there is bad to worse.
I'd like to stay positive, Atlas. Sue me. I needed this tournament,
No,
okay?
I liked it. You were going for the different way, and I enjoyed it. As T1 possibly in trouble yet again here, as the Tempered Fate is going to be avoided. That is the
Good pick.
smallest little dredge line from Carrier, and is obviously not going to be enough to get him
I'm
out to
bullying the
safety.
Nautilus.
As he is left out to dry. EG evening up the kill score yet again. They are not down by too much gold here at all as we crest the 15-minute mark.
I'm loving EG, because with this type of composition, you're going to be always looking for those type of plays and consistently going towards the T1 bot lane that has had so many struggles. Works out really, really well, really hard for both Guma and Carrier to get away from that Tempered Fate when they don't have the flash available. And it is definitely a top-side win for T1. EG on the bot side getting a huge lead there, as we can see. Of course, with center lanes, there always be a little bit of disjoint in terms of goal. But suffice it to say that Danny, he's feeling very well used.
Yeah.
We'll see if Bar can actually ult this Herald that is going down over for T1 once again. Hopefully, if Vulcan could find 1 out of 2 at least.
Actually does have an issue getting on top of the
It's like free throws.
The reflection
At least hit 1 out of 2.
also fought like a Camille in the T1 composition rather, because it's one of the very few picks that can actually reliably deal with as well besides Kai'Sa. See that happening a lot.
Yeah. And these are two players that don't necessarily like the Kai'Sa all that much. Tempered Fate
Oh
is going
no,
to
they're just
find
gonna go
Roshi.
top.
Let's see whether this is a kill for EG, and absolutely it is.
I guess it's worth it, but
Absolutely nothing the T180 carry could do, and that's precisely what this comp was built to do from EG.
It's just really well done. EG continuously keeps using their long-range punish with the Tempered Fate, and they have Jojo Pern roaming around. Inspired and Vulcan have basically been inseparable this entire game, and it's not going to lead to an objective. But what I love about this comp from EG is that when a player isn't having a great tournament, focusing the
it's Infernal.
So
Can't believe we
definitely
get
much more
relevant
fun.
Drake.
Definitely much more fun than the Cloud Drake, but not necessarily my personal favorite.
Infernal will
So
be
there's
really
the
good for
switch
game
over
playing.
on
It's
the
really
side
good
of
for
Faker.
Ezreal.
Faker looking for a back as well as Owner. We'll see whether Judge Quinn's going to be able to do anything here. Of course, Skullcar's not as threatening to a Gangplank. Carrier's Locket does get finished up. Gumayusi just trying to farm things up here in this mid lane. See whether the center can get online. Of course, still a fair bit of soul farming has come through, but as you can see, he takes a lot of damage.
Soul Count also not looking particularly great. I would say in a
Yeah, only
51 right
51.
now. Yeah, it's just a bad experience for the T1 bot lane, and that kind of beckons the question: which team actually got the better hand of this early game? Because in terms of gold, there is clearly neither team that has been able to really break away.
But when have we been able to say that for a T1 match so far? I mean, it feels like even in games that T1 loses, they have at least a 3,000 gold.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That has been one of their main characteristics. So EG managing well in that regard, I think in of itself is a big win. On the flip side, I do feel like T1, when it comes to the overall composition, is going to have a lot easier time in the late game. There are some really well scaling parts of EG. Impact most notably, and the Ezreal, as I mentioned previously, will be hard for T1 to get on top of if they don't have something like a Stolen Tempered Fate, like a Destiny from the Silas. But it is a little harder to execute. You do need to have all the pieces in motion, and you need T1 ideally to again have someone roam away from the main team, be able to pick them off, start those resets for Inspired. Also, Zeus went Hullbreaker, and that is a clear sign that T1 is presumably going to be looking for split pushing, which into the composition of EG is
That whole breaker is gonna trigger the fuck out of LS. Holy shit.
because
Yeah.
they don't really want to go through.
But I mean, yeah, no, I don't have very many positives here. As Zeus is going to test out his new hull breaker here. Carrier is going to ruin it for him as Tempered Fate comes down. That is going to be Owner though in the back line.
Good Ezreal.
Counter barrage is absolutely fantastic, and Inspired has to break his stopwatch to stay alive. Gumayusi now back with the team in the phalanx. It's been reformed. A stolen Tempered Fate comes down, and Bar gets a taste of his own medicine. Gumayusi picks up the kill to get some revenge. Shirley will go down, but T1 1-0 in the fight.
And the smoke screen from Owner was so big there, not actually allowing EG to immediately pick off Zeus. That would have been a huge boon. If they hung it to zero him, then he's the most fat member on T1.
That doesn't look great. Damn. Silas is thick. Is he going for like Guardian Angel? Or... Yeah, he is. Okay.
Looking forward to the replay of that fight because I think Faker's angle that he found with the Destiny was pivotal in actually definitively locking Danny down. And even with the arcane shift, even with the flash, really being able to get out there was what secured the skirmish. Now T1 going to be able to pick up so much standing gold, and a game that has been relatively even now, 7k gold lead for T1. As Zeus clearly, that damage is overrated on this. We're utility gangplanking here.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You got to get all of those safety items.
Okay,
Yeah.
he has free items.
I mean, Trinity Force by itself is tons of damage. My friend David told me about that. As T1, they do get themselves out of the way, and the fate will land, but no follow-up is going to be available. Now they'll move themselves back. Baron being utilized beautifully here as Zeus is going to take down the inner turret on the top side. Claims that, and now he's just a brick wall, denying EG any access to their top side lane. Another dredge line's going to connect as the Destiny does come on through. They're trying to take down Zeus. The barrel, the gameplay ulti just absolutely massive, and Zeus 1 versus 3 will walk it out.
Wild. Danny dies again. Damn.
I think it's all over, but the crying T1 wandering into the EG base, and it felt
Yeah, this Silas pick was way too big.
absolutely wasn't.
Who needs bank plank when you can have tank plank? He's got multiple, and it doesn't matter at all because I think that's the play you need to look for as EG. Try to desperately find someone that isn't with the rest of their team, pick them off, and use that momentum, but unfortunately wasn't enough.
No, Kimmyushi going to try and get some revenge here against his bottom side counterpart. Inspired. Yeah, it's going to be representing Rogue here as the Nexus goes down and T1 bounce back.
Pretty vicious. Pretty wild. Definitely a Silas different. A TF blind pick difference for sure. I do not think this champion is blind pickable at all. Not even a little.
Surprised by that. But instead, this could have been a turning point for them. Instead, it might be the start of the turning point for T1 as they regain some composure, regain some momentum, and even though I think HE continues to improve in every single game that I see of them, at crucial moments, team fights just don't work out.
There is so much upside to take away from EG in this game as well. It was one of the least dominant early games for T1 thus far. Yes, EG had a composition that was going to be very difficult to pilot, but they were beginning to make it work, and there are just a couple of these mistakes through that mid game that the whole game just ran away from them, right? Zeus also playing absolutely amazingly on this game plan with his Hullbreaker build and a well-deserved bow here for T1. One step closer to regaining themselves here at MSI 2022. You can imagine they're happy with this win, but it's not nearly enough to make them happy with everything so far.
I'm largely looking forward to T1 versus RNG later today. I do have like $2 on them, but I have 3-1 odds, which I think if you look now, it's like I think 1-1. Like it's 2-1, I guess technically. Yeah, it's getting those bets in before the tournament started certainly really helped.